If AI makes everyone more productive, why are teams shrinking? That is the question nobody in leadership wants to answer honestly. But we will. Welcome back to Code Sunset. I am Ethan Cole. Last episode, we mapped out the replacement timeline, who goes first, who has a few years, and who has longer. Today, we are tackling something more insidious, the productivity narrative. Because the way AI productivity is being sold to you and the way it is actually being used are two very different things. Here is the story you have been told. AI tools make developers more productive. Engineers can write code faster, debug quicker, ship features sooner. And that is technically true. Studies from GitHub show that developers using Copilot complete tasks up to 55% faster. McKinsey published research claiming software development productivity gains of 20 to 45% with generative AI. These are real numbers. I am not disputing them. But here is what those studies do not tell you. What happens after productivity goes up? Let me walk you through the logic. Say you have a team of 10 engineers. They ship a major feature every quarter. Now you give them AI tools. Suddenly they are 40% more productive. They can ship that same feature in roughly 7 weeks instead of 13. Great. So what does the company do? Do they let the team ship more features? Do they hire more engineers because output is increasing? No. Of course not. That is not how corporations operate. What actually happens is this. A VP somewhere looks at a spreadsheet and says, if 10 engineers with AI can do what 10 engineers without AI used to do in almost half the time, then 6 engineers with AI can do what 10 engineers without AI did at the original pace. And just like that, 4 people lose their jobs. The output stays the same. The headcount drops. The productivity gain is captured entirely by the company as cost savings. This is not speculation. This is what is happening. Dropbox cut 16% of its workforce and explicitly cited AI as the reason. They said the era of AI required a different mix of skills. What they meant was they needed fewer people. The CEO of UiPath said it plainly. AI means doing more with less. In corporate language, doing more with less always means fewer humans. Productivity gains do not create jobs. They eliminate redundancy. That is the economic reality that every productivity study conveniently ignores. When a factory invests in robots that double output per worker, the factory does not hire more workers. It halves the workforce. Software is no different. We just convinced ourselves it would be, because we were the ones building the tools. Now the tools are building themselves. And here is the part that makes this even more troubling. AI does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be cheaper. I see developers constantly arguing that AI-generated code is mediocre, that it introduces bugs, that it still needs human review. And they are right. AI code is often 80% correct, sometimes 70%. But think about what that means from a business perspective. If one senior engineer plus AI can produce 80% quality code at 3 times the speed, that might be a better deal than 3 mid-level engineers producing 90% quality code at normal speed. The company ships faster, pays less, and fixes the remaining bugs later. Is it ideal engineering? No. Is it cheaper? Absolutely. And cheaper wins. Cheaper always wins. Look at what happened with customer support. Companies knew chatbots were worse than human agents. Customers complained. Satisfaction scores dipped. But the cost savings were so massive that companies pushed through anyway. Now AI support is the default, and humans are the exception. The same pattern is playing out in engineering. Quality takes a temporary hit. Cost drops permanently. Companies accept the trade-off. There is another dimension to this that people miss. When AI makes individual engineers more productive, it also increases the supply of engineering capability. If every engineer can now do the work of 1.5 engineers, the effective labor supply just went up by 50%. But demand for software is not growing at 50% per year. So you have more supply, roughly the same demand, and the inevitable result is downward pressure on both headcount and wages. Some people argue that AI will create new categories of work, that absorb the displaced engineers. And some new roles will emerge: AI prompt engineering, model fine-tuning, AI infrastructure. But these roles require different skills, exist in much smaller numbers, and are themselves subject to automation. The net effect is negative. More engineers competing for fewer positions. So the next time someone tells you AI is a productivity tool, ask them this: productive for whom? Because from where most engineers sit, productivity is not a reward, it is a countdown. Has AI made your team bigger or smaller? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Subscribe to Code Sunset. Next episode, we are going to talk about the real casualty: entry-level engineers. What happens when the bottom of the career ladder disappears?